So we're continuing our season by season OHL history series as we got to do something during the off season when junior hockey's on break. So why not look at how the league has evolved since it was created as the Ontario Hockey League back in the 80-81 season, and where teams have moved and who are the champions in each season and what stands out as we do a bit of a summary. And today we take a look at the 1988-89 series, 15 teams playing 66 games, but we did get a few changes going into this season. First off, the Hamilton Steelhawks relocating down the QEW to become the Niagara Falls Thunder. And this kind of filled a void in Niagara Falls after the Flyers relocated to North Bay back in 1982. Well, the Kingston Canadians, they were also rebranded during the offseason. They became the Kingston Raiders after the team was purchased by Lou Kozowski. Now, the Canadians, they struggled in recent seasons leading up to this sale. And the idea of changing the brand to the Raiders and going to the black and silver look was to give them a tougher image, kind of like the Los Angeles Raiders of the National Football League at the time. So that was the thinking going into this season. So two new teams, no realignment when it comes to the divisions. The Hamilton Steelhawks going to Niagara Falls. They would stay in the M's division. Well, of course, the Kingston Canadians going into the Kingston Raiders. No change there, staying in the Leyden. Now, looking at the standings that season, it was the Kitchener Rangers who were dominant. They had a record of 41-19-6, good for 88 points. Second in the division in their first season were the Niagara Falls Thunder, 41-23-2, good for 84 points, so just 4 points back of Kitchener for first in the M's division. The London Knights would come in third, 37-25-4 was their record for 78 points. While the Guelph Platers, 26-32-8, good for 60 points. The Windsor CompuWare Spitfires, they would finish in fifth, record of 25-37-4 for 54 points. And claiming the final playoff spot in the M's division would be the North Bay Centennials. And they would have a record of 24-36-6, good for 54 points. And then missing the playoffs by just 1 point this year would be the Sudbury Wolves. They had a record of 23-36-7 for 53 points. And at the bottom of the division would be the Sioux Greyhounds with a record of 21-43-2 for 44 points. Now switching over to the Leyden division, it would be the Peterborough Petes leading the way. 42-22-2 was their record for 86 points. The Oshawa Generals sitting second, 36-24-6 was their record for 78 points. The Toronto Marlboros, they would be third in the division with a record of 32-31-3 for 67 points. The Cornwall Royals, 31-30-5 was their record for 67 points. The Ottawa 67s, they would finish fifth, 30-32-4 was their record for 64 points. And claiming the final playoff spot in the Leyden division would be the Belleville Bulls with a record of 27-35-4 for 58 points. And despite the rebrand and wanting to be more, have that tougher image, the Kingston Raiders would miss the playoffs with a record of 25-36-5 for 55 points. Now, this season, it was, the rumors started coming out that there were issues with the Toronto Marlboros of the Ontario Hockey League, as they would eventually be sold by Maple Leaf Gardens Limited for reported $500,000, severing their ties with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it was a long history that the Marlboros and the Maple Leafs would share playing out of Maple Leaf Gardens. Harold Ballard and his penny pinching is said to be the demise of the team. And of course, they would be forced to relocate despite their history. The Marlboros, they were a dominant junior team back in the day, but after Harold Ballard took over, the team started to slump. We haven't seen them in any of the history videos going to an OHL championship. They would have a couple seasons where they're near the top of the division, but wouldn't win a division title. So really, they never did much after the OHL formed in 1980. And then at the end of the season, the Leafs, they would retain the Marlies name from the sale, and they would relocate to Hamilton. So we'll talk about that in the next OHL season-by-season video. Now, in Kingston, Larry Mavety, he was brought in as coach after many years in Belleville. Despite the new ownership, Lou Kozowski was not that popular locally in the city of Kingston. And after one season, he was asked to sell the team. So the Raiders brand didn't go over so well. So Kingston continuing to have tough times in the late 1980s when it comes to their junior hockey league team. Now, things were also not so great for the Guelph Platers. Attendance was an issue despite just winning a Memorial Cup in 1986. They would start to struggle as well at the gate, playing at the Memorial Gardens in Guelph. And the Holiday family, they would look to relocate the team. So this would be the last season of the Guelph Platers. So a lot of change in the late 1980s when it comes to organizations in the Ontario Hockey League. Now, the CompuWare Spitfires, Peter Karmanos, he would also sell the team during this season. And at the end of the regular season, he actually sold the team to Steve Riolio, and they would return to their traditional name, Windsor Spitfires, because Karmanos owned CompuWare, and that brand would stay with him. He wouldn't leave it with the Windsor Spitfires. And to note about Karmanos as well, before he sold the team, he actually wanted to purchase the Sioux Greyhounds, or actually he tried to move the Spitfires to Detroit and then looked to purchase the Sioux Greyhounds to relocate them to Detroit, but those two plans were blocked. So he wasn't allowed to relocate the Spitfires, and the sale of the Greyhounds was also blocked. So Peter Karmanos didn't want to leave the Ontario Hockey League, but he wanted a team in Detroit to become the first US-based team in the Ontario Hockey League. And this is a hint of things to come. If you see where this is going with Peter Karmanos, we'll touch on him again in another season upcoming. Now, Brian Fogarty of the Niagara Falls Thunder, he set some history that hasn't been passed yet. He led the OHL in scoring, and that's actually the last time the defenseman would lead the OHL in scoring with 155 points. So big season there from Brian Fogarty. And the last item to talk about here from the 88-89 season, the Greyhounds, they finished last in the OHL standings, which meant they had the first overall pick in the 1989 OHL priority selection, and they would draft Eric Lindros. And of course, Lindros never played for the Sioux Greyhounds. He would actually ask for a trade and not want to report with Sault Ste. Marie. So we'll get a little bit more into that situation in the 89-90 season-by-season video. So a lot going on around the Ontario Hockey League in the late 1980s. Now, before we look at the playoff tree, let's look at the top scorers from the 88-89 season. Of course, we already talked about Brian Fogarty of the Niagara Falls Thunder. He led the way with 47 goals, 108 assists, 155 points. Second in scoring was Stan Drulia, also of the Thunder, 52 goals, 93 assists, 145 points. Andrew Castles of the Ottawa 67s would be third with 37 goals, 97 assists, 134 points. Steve Malte of the Cornwall Royals, 53 goals, 70 assists, 123 points. From the Oshawa Generals, Kevin Meem, he would have 43 goals, 79 assists, 122 points. From the London Knights, Tim Taylor, 34 goals, 80 assists, 114 points. Rob Zamner of the Guelph Platers, 46 goals, 65 assists, 111 points. Eighth in scoring would be Keith Osborne. He split time between the North Bay Centennials and Niagara Falls Thunder. 45 goals, 64 assists, 109 points. Ninth in scoring, Jamie Leach of the Niagara Falls Thunder. 45 goals, 62 assists, 107 points. And 10th in scoring, Mike Ricci of the Peterborough Petes. 54 goals, 52 assists, 106 points. The Niagara Falls Thunder well represented in the top 10 in scoring in the 88-89 season. Now, in the playoffs, the top 6 teams in each division would qualify for the postseason. And in the division quarterfinal, we would have the Peterborough Petes defeating the Belleville Bulls in 5 games, while the Cornwall Royals upsetting the Toronto Marlboros in 6 games. So for the Marlboros, their last season in the Ontario Hockey League would end in an upset in the first round. And then the Ottawa 67s completing an upset as well in 6 games over the Oshawa Generals. In the M's division, it would be the Kitchener Rangers falling short to the North Bay Centennials. That was in 5 games, so what an upset. The Kitchener Rangers, the top team during the regular season, but then knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. What an upset there by the North Bay Centennials. The Niagara Falls Thunder, they would sweep the Windsor Spitfires, so a great start to OHL hockey in its return to the city of Niagara Falls. And then the London Knights, they would need 7 games to take out the Guelph Platers and move on to the quarterfinal. In the quarterfinal, the Peterborough Petes and Niagara Falls Thunder both had byes because they were the top seed in their division after the first round. So that means the Cornwall Royals and Ottawa 67s would battle it out, and it would be the Royals knocking off the 67s in 6 games, while the London Knights, they would need 7 games to take out the North Bay Centennials. What a push by North Bay, upsetting Kitchener in the first round and nearly getting the upset in the second round against London. So in the semifinal, that would put Peterborough up against Cornwall, and the Petes would take care of the Royals in 6 games. While the Niagara Falls Thunder, they would need 7 games to take out the London Knights. What a run in the Ems division. Those would have been some quite the battles throughout the Ems division playoff tree, and it would be the Thunder in their first season making it to the OHL final. But that's where the Cinderella run would come to an end as the Peterborough Petes defeating the Niagara Falls Thunder in 6 games. Like, what a series that was for the Peterborough Petes, getting the J. Ross Robertson Cup and winning the championship in 1989. Now, going into the Memorial Cup, it was held in Saskatoon. So the Blades were the host, and they would host the tournament while the Swift Current Broncos represented the Western Hockey League, while the Laval Titan from the QMJHL would go up against the Petes. And for Peterborough, they finished the round robin with a 1-2 record, and then in the semifinal, they would lose to the Swift Current Broncos 6-2. So quite the season for the Peterborough Petes, but just couldn't get the job done at the Memorial Cup in 1989. Now, looking at your award winners that season, Brian Fogarty, he was the story. He won the Red Tilson Trophy along with the Eddie Powers Memorial Trophy. Like, what a run from Brian Fogarty that season. The Matt Layden went to Joe McDonald, the Kitchener Rangers. Stan Drulia of the Niagara Falls Thunder won the Jim Mahon Memorial Trophy. The Max Comiskey would go to Brian Fogarty. He just all the all the trophies and awards that season for Fogarty. The OHL Goaltender of the Year, Gus Morschhauser of the Kitchener Rangers. Love that name. We need to have more Gus goaltenders in the Ontario Hockey League. And then the Ems Family Award would go to Owen Nolan of the Cornwall Royals. So Nolan having a great rookie season there with the Cornwall Royals. So what a season it was, 1989. And going into the 89-90 season, there'd be a lot more drama, and we'll get to that as we continue with this OHL History season-by-season video series. I hope you're enjoying this series so far. If you haven't seen any of the other videos before, I do have a playlist on the channel. Just look at the OHL History tab. I also have the team history videos that I did last summer, and you can take a look at that. And let me know in the comments below if you remember visiting or attending a game during the 88-89 season. Let me know what stood out for you. What was the excitement, the buzz? Obviously, this is just a summary of what happened that season, but love the interaction. Thank you very much for your support. If you haven't clicked subscribe already, why not? Click subscribe. Easy said than done. But yeah, it's been great to see the channel grow. We want to create a community where we can come together, talk about junior hockey, more specifically the Ontario Hockey League. So again, thank you very much for your support, and we'll talk to you again soon.